For this dreadful profanity, Carreras was sentenced to have his tongue cut from his mouth, so that the cries he would utter during the fate that awaited him should not offend the ears of the gods.
You're listening to League Podcast. League versus The Mummy, 1959. I'm Matt Derson.
And I'm John Banning Hunt.
King Tut, in the style of Steve Martin. Play Inferno here.
King Tut. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks, but we're in October now, and it's time for us to do one of our classic horror movies, as one does, as we do. And every year we try to do an old Universal, actually, right? Like we've always done pretty much.
Yeah, we've done Universal last year.
Universal.
Yes, it's a kind of a rare follow-up sequel soft reboot to our last year's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does tie.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think it was last year.
I thought we did the
It was Wolfman and Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah. So the years, they blend together.
I know. The Mummy was a few years ago, but yeah. So, but it's still kind of a soft.
I can get into some knowledge dropping about how it does actually tie in with Universal.
Wow, that's pretty good. There is like a
We'll get there.
Well, this was like they had done The Curse of Frankenstein and The Horror of Dracula, right?
Correct.
And then this was the first time they ever had actual official permission.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. They got
Okay.
permission to do stuff from Universal because like they had to kind of tiptoe around the whole Frankenstein look. You know, you couldn't make it too much like Universal because that's the thing that's trademark. It's Frankenstein and this flat head and that stuff. So
And the bolts and stuff.
yeah, so that Frankenstein where Christopher Lee plays the monster, that one does not look anything like Boris Karloff. But in this, they had permission to use what they wanted, and they basically took. Let me look in my kind of notes that I have that are not very well organized, but they essentially took the story from three different Lon Chaney Mummy. They picked up the best bits of those movies and mushed them all together with a little hint of the Karloff one, and came up with this. And I'm going to tell you, I prefer this over the movies that they cherry picked from, because one of them is very much, it feels like an Abbott and Costello movie until about halfway through. You know, it's not a good film. So I don't remember if that's The Mummy's Hand, The Mummy's Tomb, or The Mummy's Ghost.
Wow.
Or The Mummy goes to jail. The Mummy goes to camp. And
Abbott and Costello, might meet the Mummy.
Yeah.
I also see that Universal in the AMC kind of notes about this. Universal distributed the film, so it must be part of the business behind the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was like on a double bill with a Vincent Price movie.
I didn't really know anything about this movie before we watched it. So.
I know that it terrified me as a 6-year-old.
Really? Oh, wow.
I've got
You don't like tall mummies?
No, I don't. I don't like. It was.
You're like 7 feet tall. Or what is he, 10? He said he was 10.
It keeps getting shorter until he becomes Joush's height. I saw this because like our local North Dakota UHF channel did a week of horror movies, and they would play like 2 of them a night for the whole week, and they had this little bumper that had scary music, and one of the shots was the mummy walking out of his stand-up coffin thing, and I was like, ooh, I don't like that. And then I started to watch the movie with my father, and I was like, oh, this is a little too intense for me. I'm only 6. Yeah, well, the mummy himself was just, because he's real creepy looking, and as a child, I was very skittish. And
that's creepy.
And then I'll tell you this. It's funny now in this dream I'm going to tell you about, which is very quick because I was 6. I can only remember a very brief glimpse of it. You know the old RKO like had the radio tower thing, and it was like goo, 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 goo,
Oh
goo.
Yeah.
So it was like something like that. So my dream was in black and white, and there was this couple running over the hill towards me. And I don't know if you guys have dreams that have soundtracks in them, but whenever I've had a mummy dream, it has like a score to it. And there was this like real chanty, low, like choir thing going on in the dream that was going, "Mommy, the only mommy," which is funny now, but to a 6-year-old, when you're hearing that, I didn't even see the mummy in the dream, but it scared the hell out of me. And so like when I've told Mrs. Elder about it, she'll sing, "Mommy, the only mommy," you know. And I had another one where there was a robotic mummy chasing me through the old Rips department store.
I remember.
Oh yeah, that is perfect. Like S-Mart, like
Yes, exactly. Yes.
place to have a mummy scare you around.
Yeah.
My God.
I had a lot of mummy dreams for that year of my life.
Wow.
But 2 years later, I watched it. It was on TV. Not scared anymore. So by the time I was 8, I was super sophisticated. No problems.
Of course.
Can I give you my little kid mummy story?
Yeah.
Which I probably did. Go back and listen to our other mummy episode because I probably told this. But I think I was 5, and and I wanted to be the mummy for Halloween, and my mom did such an awesome job of like wrapping me with gauze. And then to do like the thing that you don't like probably about this mummy is his face, right? It's
Yes.
pretty scary.
Yeah, that was scary.
So my mom's idea was to augment instead of like fake blood if you're Dracula or whatever. She made she took oatmeal and like put it on my face and like
I can totally picture
my
that.
body
Yeah.
and stuff.
Love
Yeah,
it.
so she did the oatmeal treatment and I don't
Your
have any
skin was-
pictures of it, but
was,
I
like,
definitely
super
remember it.
soft afterwards.
Yeah, and it
Well,
tasted
I
like
was
cherry.
definitely I was definitely in like a onesie pajama with the gauze over it. So,
I'm pretty sure that's what Christopher Lee's wearing through most of this too. I think you can see the zipper on the back in a couple
he has
shots.
a butt flap.
Yeah, it looks like he's wearing a diaper when he walks into the.
Oh, I guess we'll just say it right now. I was gonna wait, but apparently Christopher Lee got the shit kicked out of him doing this movie.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
he hurt his back picking up the girl. He walked into stuff at the bottom of the swamp
Yeah,
that he
pipes and
did.
stuff. Yeah, he got
When he broke
burns from.
through. Yeah, he burns from the squibs,
Yeah,
and he crashed through a window or a door
sure. Yeah,
that was like bolted down.
yeah, and he dislocated his shoulder. Yeah, that was
And they kept that shot. That's like the shot they used.
That's a good shot, though.
Yeah.
Just shows you what a big, imposing figure he is.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty cool. I mean, here he is.
Do we remember who John Hannah is?
Patriots quarterback.
One
back
of
in
the
the
guys.
80s.
He also hurt his wrist and was wearing a brace in some of the scenes.
Huh.
I think maybe that's the Egyptian guy. I'm not sure. But I don't know. I got that wrong. Probably the name.
Well, we'll
No.
figure it out.
Well, I always just called him Fez in my notes because I didn't remember his name. But
I had seen. Well, he comes back in another Hammer Mummy film, but I've seen him in like other things, and every time I had seen him, I'd be like, "Oh, that's the guy from the Mummy."
is that George Pastel? Is that the guy? Mehmet Bey? Mehmet? Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. So yeah, let's start this off here. It's only an 88-minute movie, so we just kind of just rush right through this. But
Here we go.
yeah, there's an archaeological dig. It's 1895. First of all, we should mention
Yep. Monkey Wrench in the System. 1895.
1895. They're digging and in Egypt
And
they
a bunch
dig
of
up
old
this
white guys.
yeah, British.
Well,
They dig up
something
this-
going on.
They dig up this little.
Obviously on set too. It's like they're
Well,
not
I want to
on-
say something. I want to say something about that before we go any further. is very obviously the entire movie is shot on sound stages, but I kind of like the fakeness of it. It adds a sort of an unreal quality to it, and a little bit of like just kind of weirdness to the proceedings, that it's just like, well, okay, yeah, that's, I can see the paintings, like the backdrop painting, and I can see that those are just a couple plastic palm trees. But when they get back to England and there's the swamp and stuff, I was like, that doesn't look real either, but I like it anyway. You know, it just
the swamp, the style looks just time. I mean, you could.
It was a different time.
Different time.
It requires a sort of a suspension of disbelief.
Yes,
you know, we know this is fake, and you know this is fake, but just go work with us here.
Yeah, and I guess the swamp set was left over from some other Hammer film, and the set where the father is in the nursing home for the mentally deranged is
right,
because that was what Hammer did. They would just reuse anything they could to save a few bucks.
Well, hey, they only spent, what did I see the budget on this movie was? Hang on.
$150, the same as Durst and the Firestarter.
The budget was £125,000.
Well, that's pretty heavy.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Imagine Christopher Lee carrying, no wonder he had a backpack.
Go back and listen to our Back to the Future episodes.
This is like the weirdest thing. It says 857,243 admissions when they say when next to box office. It's like,
oh, weird.
Admissions. They not pay any money?
They would just admit if they watched the movie.
They admitted it. Yeah, I saw it.
All right, sorry, we kind of got off.
That's okay. That's good. It's good knowledge, Drop.
But you're right about the Hammer thing, because it, you know, it kind of makes it its own, you know, Hammer universe.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that sign was in that other movie. You know?
Yeah.
Right. Like, the Hammer universe.
Did you guys see that movie? The movie that came out, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago. It's got Harry Potter in it. It's like The Lady in Red or something like that, or Lady in Black, The Woman in Black. I don't know. It was like kind of a horror movie sort of thing, but we saw it in the theater, and there were all these like tropes in it that they're like, oh, well, he goes here. We got Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe goes to the inn, and someone's like, whoa, the place is cursed, and we don't like strangers. And I was like, this reminds me of a Hammer film, and it was actually the first new Hammer horror film that had been put out in like 100 million years, and I was like, oh, it all makes sense now.
Real-time follow-up. It's called The Woman in Black.
Thank you.
Nice.
2012, though. You nailed the date, though.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a couple of old British guys, old white guys, as we said, digging up stuff. They dig up this little green thing. They're like, it looks like a badge. They're like, okay, they're very John will be excited to see this. John Hunt, of course.
Yes, of course. I was very excited to see that. Yeah, so it's what is it? Who's the father? His name?
Stephen Banning. Felix Aylmer, I guess is how you pronounce that. Whatever. Anyway, he's Stephen Banning. Yeah, they're like, bring it to him, because like there's a whole, because he's got a broken leg. Yes. Peter Cushing, we should point out.
Is John.
Yeah, Peter Cushing.
And before they go into the I don't know, what do you call that? The tomb, I guess. Mm. That's when the Egyptian guy comes out and starts yelling at them to not go in, and you'll be cursed.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Right. There's a warning, as in all horror movies. Like, really, there's like, oh.
And as always, the old white guys are like, pshaw, get out of my face. You know, you're right. You don't know anything. Foreigner.
There's actually like a little bit of that throughout the whole movie, but yeah. So like they're like, we can't. You know, your leg won't set right if you get up and you know and go into the tomb.
As someone that's just returning on vacation, I do appreciate the old British, you know, tent, cot, relax, have a smoke, have a drink, come into the tent. You know, it's like, well, your leg's not going to set properly here.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of stuff. Love it.
Probably have tea time.
I could live like that. Yeah, they're having tea. They are having tea in that tent.
Sorry, that's funny to me.
But yeah, the Egyptian guy, he says, he who robs the graves of Egypt dies. Whoa, look, that's pretty. And they're like,
then he starts He starts handing out T-shirts with that slogan.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably do pretty good with that on TeePublic. So of course they go inside anyway. They have to,
which when they go inside, it's got this nice, like its own lighting. It's got this light.
It's pretty bright for like thousands of years old. Not a speck of dust.
But Hammer, since these were early color movies for them, they really went in on the whole like, let's just make everything as like everything pops on it. Like if you watch any other movie that has blood in it, it's super bright red because they're like color, you know.
Yeah, it does pop. I mean, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
We don't know
I
what
like
the
it.
inside
I like
of a
it.
tomb
Also,
looks like.
and also, yeah. I mean, it could have its own lighting in there that lasts for years. I mean, maybe they figured out the secrets of the everlasting light bulb.
Maybe.
Well, they've also figured out. I've been dying to talk about this, but yeah. So they also have very like Star Trek TOS, very poppy color,
Yes.
like costumes and props and things. It's like every little nubbin on that thing that he's holding is like painted red on a white staff. But I did want to say that I thought it was funny that it's like regular rope around the tomb.
Yeah.
There's a lock on it, but it's regular rope, and supposedly that rope has been there for 4,000 years and didn't disintegrate.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
I guess so.
I think I said the same thing.
No, you didn't.
No, I did. I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay. All right, it's fine.
So Joseph, the uncle, he's like, oh, we have to tell John because now they're actually found the tomb. They're in the tomb. They find the Ananka. Yeah.
Thank you. Banaka.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Stephen's just like, yes, you go right ahead. And he's got his magnifying glass and whatever. He's looking at the sarcophagus, I guess.
Yes.
But he takes this thing off the wall, this brightly colored red thing. Like so he starts to read it. It's like a scroll, and the doors open behind him.
If you see every time that they remove that, there's like sand that starts to drop down that opens a secret door.
Yeah. And then, meanwhile, back in the tent where they're all hanging out, sipping their tea and having their cigars.
Clay's there. living his best life.
Yeah, I got my Comic-Con bag.
Yeah.
The big one they give you. Yeah. To say, hey guys, I'm really enjoying my vacation.
They're like, they're like, where's Steve? Oh, he's back there. And then they hear him scream, and then Joe runs back, and he has to like. I love how the hole to get in the tomb is like really small. He has to like climb in it like a little kid playing hide and go seek or something. But Stephen is down, and he's you can't say what happened. He's pretty much just catatonic. So now we jump ahead.
Yeah, it's like it's like six months or something.
2 months, 3 months, I think, or whatever. Yeah. And John is walking around now. His leg is healed, and Stephen
he's got a limp.
Yeah. And he's in a nursing home. Stephen is in the nursing home for, I forget what they call it, but they're basically like, the nut house.
Yeah,
like and then like they take everything out of the tomb, which even though he who robs the graves of Egypt dies, but they just whatever, take it all. And he says they will suffer.
Well, yeah, then they blow it up so you can't enter back into it.
Yeah.
But
and by the way, safety protocols, they're way too close to that fuse.
I know.
That's probably how he hurt his leg in the first place. Was they blew up something and he got either hit with debris or thrown against a tree or something.
Yeah, it's dummies.
It's the 1800s. It was a different time.
Yeah, it was a different time. Right.
And I did want to address it's a different time right here because it's the Egyptian guy. Like that's definitely like some sort of like Arab. Like, I think face paint or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's Indian in actuality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and he always got hired to just play just
ethnic
strange foreigners,
Yeah,
yeah. Play ethnic man.
Yeah.
It was.
I will read this scroll.
Yeah, different time indeed. Oh well.
Well, I mean,
Speaking of different
the
times.
Egyptians most of them are played by white people. So I mean, when you got,
Yeah, I guess at least they got an ethnic-looking guy.
yeah,
But he does always wear that sort of that fez hat.
yeah,
Fezzes are cool.
he does a good job pulling it off.
He carries it well. Yeah.
And then
I never-
always know that's him because he's the only one that
Yeah,
wears one.
even in silhouette.
That's right. So, speaking of different time, we jump ahead to 1898. Back in England.
Yeah.
Yep. Steve is back awake, but he's been in the nut house for 3 years.
It is. I have it right here. The Angerfield Nursing Home for the Mentally Disordered.
Oh, mentally
Disordered.
disordered. That's a nice way to put it. He's trying to tell his son John about the mummy, and because someone
Because he
found the
hadn't really
scroll.
he hadn't talked in
Right.
a couple of years or whatever, and they finally is like lucid,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh yeah, go in and see him. So
Right. And then he's talking about, the mummy, and they're like, oh, Dad.
he's like, shut. There was no mummy in there. He's like, I know it was. I saw it.
So we've got these two, but like he's something triggered him, like because someone in Egypt, found the scrolls or whatever. So
Yeah, well, because Fez, after they like blocked the door, he was like talking to the goddess, whatever, and said, like, no matter how many years it takes me, I'll unearth the thing, I'll grab your dude, and we'll find the people that did all this, the defilers.
the Defilers.
Ireland.
That's the name
Sounds
of
like
the
they
next
took-
comic book.
That sounds pretty good. I like that.
Sounds like they took a big dump in the,
Loaded into AI.
They took a
They
big.
defiled. They really
That was-
defiled that too.
That was
Complete-
That's the
Complete paint job.
Yeah, we defiled it. So I love these guys. So there's these two drunks in the bar, and they're talking about, well, I want to go transport this cargo.
There's a gag there
Relics.
walking as they're walking out of the bar, and he's like, I'm driving, you're too drunk to drive. He's like, I'm not drunk, the place is only a half a mile away. He's like, and this horse is a man's best friend. And the other guy goes, no, the dog's a man's best friend. And the other guy looks at the horse, and he's like, no, it's a horse. like the joke being, no, he says horse is
Right.
man's best friend, and he says, no, it's a dog, and he looks at it and he says, it's a horse.
It's a horse.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I fucked up the joke.
That's all right. It's all right.
Well, if that was a joke when I watched it multiple times, because those two drunks are my favorite part of this.
They really are.
I
They're
didn't really
classic.
even catch that.
Mrs. Elder didn't catch it either until I pointed it out.
What a dear old
It's very subtle humor.
So as they're riding by the nursing home, Stephen wakes up. He smashes his window with his cane, and he's like, "The mummy!"
The mummy's in. The guy's like, "Oh God, the nut house has got things. Let's go."
They get scared.
They've got
and,
their
like,
Egyptian relics. They're bringing up to Fez.
Right.
Relics. It says
And they-
relics. They keep saying relics.
Yeah, they get relics. Well, there's just relics in there.
They say
swerve.
relics as many times as the guy said beacon for the bat signal.
Oh, the beacon, the relics. We got relics.
So they swerve, and the big box with the mummy in it falls into the swamp. And,
Whoops.
Yep, whoopsies. So in the morning, the cops are talking to them, and like, well, yeah, we're not getting that thing back.
I would like to say
Whatever.
something about the cop that's here. I think he seems like someone that would be a cop in a movie, like sort of like if Frosty the Snowman was a movie, he'd be like, "Oh, you kids are doing stuff," and then at the end he'd be like the real jolly cop doing the, "Oh, you little rascals, you're so funny."
He is. He's a good cop. Good casting there.
Yes.
Yeah, he's really trying to get to the bottom of it too. He keeps asking.
Literally.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Literally.
But he does say the box is irrecoverable or irrevocable. I don't know. Is that this? Like it sounded. Yeah.
What's
But
in the box? Relics.
Yeah, relics. Just relics.
Yeah, is a whole shipment of the movie The Relic. It was a bunch of
Just all
VHS.
DVDs. Yeah. So yeah, meanwhile, John is meeting with the doctors about his dad who was smashed his window, and basically they just say he's crazy. Like they don't have the poor guy.
It's like that meme that's like, "Okay, Grandma, let's get you to bed."
Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's sad. Yes. But meanwhile, the Fez goes back to, he wants to see about his box, and he goes back to the swamp and he reads the scroll. Mummy comes out.
I really like the way he comes out of the water because it's strange looking. It's like his head kind of pops up and he almost looks like he's like being pushed, and then and stands up straight with his arms folded in front of him. If you try to do that, that's really difficult to do. And just the way he gets out of the water looks like I haven't moved in years, but like it also has this like a sense of menace and power to it's very, the acting Christopher Lee does in this movie through body language and his eyes, I think is really quite good.
So did they do any other sort of stunt man or anything, or was it all, do you know if it was just all Christopher Lee? Or?
I know that they had to use a stunt guy after he threw his back out to carry
right.
What's her face?
Isabel,
thank you.
Yeah.
Which I said last week when we were talking, I was going to point out that she's still with us at 90 years young, still alive.
Oh, wow.
This recording in October of 2023.
Yvonne.
Okay, Grandma, let's get you to bed. I would say
me.
Okay, let's get you to bed, Grandma.
Yeah, is she related, Clay? Yvonne Furneaux?
Yeah, that's just like a French spelling of Furneaux.
Yeah.
Inferno.
We're engaged to be married.
Oh, very good.
Wow, gonna collect in on that big Furneaux inheritance. Mummy money.
All that mummy money, yes.
Mummy money.
So yeah.
Mummy,
I love the way you said that. You're like, ha ha, I will be getting the money.
Use that as the bumper for the show.
So anyway, he tells them to go get revenge on those who desecrated the tomb. And the mummy goes to Stephen's room in the night house.
This part was also, this was the part that just sent me over the edge when I saw it as a kid, because this was like my biggest fear, just someone smashing through the window and killing. Because also, when he's in a padded room at this point.
Yeah, and it's like there's like a grate.
Yeah, and there's the guy and the orderly or whatever is like, press this doorbell right next to your bed. Don't bang on the door and don't yell because we won't hear you.
Yeah.
And of course, was the guy do? Runs over to the door, starts banging on it and yelling instead of pressing the button.
But there's a giant mummy coming through his window.
First thing I stepped up, there's a doorbell right next to my thing to get someone. I press that, then run over to the door and start going. Hey.
Well, yeah. He doesn't, he panics, I guess. I mean, he dies very quickly.
Yeah, he does. Well, I also like the fact that he just sits there in shock and watches it as he's like breaking through the window. He's like, oh, God, this is a little too much for my old ticker.
I call it the reverse One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Because he gets through so fast. But now they don't know who did it, basically. That they're like, how did that happen? Like,
yeah, the joke that I made for this scene was like, they're like, and we determined it's a maniac. And it just looks like a will reading. And that's like, worst will reading ever,
They're all kind of just sitting around being like, well. But the only person, they said he was such a nice guy. Everyone loved him. The only person he ever said anything bad about was Fez.
Oh, yeah.
And they reminisce about that day 3 years ago. And then there's this kind of long flashback scene as they read the story of Ananka.
Holy shit, is it long? Wow. Wow, was it long? Super long.
The story about I don't even remember. It's long. And
coming
back from
Carreras is in love with Ananka and she's dead and he goes to bring her back to life, but you're not supposed to do that. So
he buried her.
They cut out his tongue so he can't utter anymore. But what's cool is like when he's trying to bring her back to life, you can see her eyes like start to flutter a bit.
They move a little bit. Yeah.
And then when the guys come in and go, hey, don't do that, she just stops. She's dead again. And
that was pretty cool. I like that.
So then they bury him alive.
Yeah.
Well, I heard. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the movie's defense, this was probably the spectacle that audiences were like, wow, there was like a cool flashback to ancient Egypt. But watching it now, it's like, they would have done this in like 15 seconds.
Right.
In a new movie, you know what I mean?
I know.
It's long, but it's all like you were saying before about the colors and everything, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
they're showcasing all these costumes and this ritual and pull my brain out through my nose and fill you up with some kind of tea leaf.
Yeah, no, all they do with her is just rub her down with some like oils.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And cut out his tongue.
She's
Put on a
like
saggy diaper on him when they march him into it. You know what I mean? It did look like he had a saggy diaper.
He did have kind of a full. Instead of the little opening, it was actually just sort of
The tongue thing is like, they don't show it, but it's like kind of fucked up.
I guess they had another version of that was
Yeah,
graphic,
I read that.
But this one just looks like he's got like a plastic shovel or something and painted gold that they cut off his tongue with it.
I know. It wasn't. I know, but I mean, it's almost better sometimes to not show it. But apparently, there was a more graphic scene. It still just makes you go like, ooh, you know, getting your tongue.
Cat cut your tongue. Hey-oh.
Anubis?
Yeah, back in the present day, now it's time, Fez releases him again to go destroy the second infidel who desecrated the tomb of Ananka. So he's walking through the woods, and the old drunk guy sees him again, and he's like,
he's putting out like a trap to catch rabbits or something.
Is that what he was? Because he also looked like he was taking a few sips.
Yeah, he was, but then he puts out like a little like a little trap, and I thought it would have been better because then he like rushes off to the side, hides it, and hides in the bush. I thought it would have been good if they just kept it there, and the mummy stepped on it, walked through it, and then just had that attached to his foot just to show you like, whoa, that ain't gonna stop him.
Yeah, he doesn't care. That would have been a good touch. You're right. But yeah, he goes running back to the bar again, and he starts telling people he needs a shot. First one, then he starts telling people he saw this 10-foot person, this mummy. He doesn't say the word mummy, I don't think. He just says,
no, he just says a big scary guy.
Yeah, and he says, "Have you been seeing the little people?" Which the little people. Have you been seeing the little people again? So anyway, the mummy goes to John's house, and as mentioned,
he's right here.
He's outside right now, John.
John, look out!
Oh, just like
Gonna
my
do a
dream.
reverse cuckoo's nest on you, and look out.
Yeah, he does. He smashes right through the door, dislocates his shoulder, as we pointed out. Uncle Joe, dies pretty quick. John goes to get his gun, and he shoots him in the back several times. Doesn't affect him at all. He just walks out. So the next day, John is telling the copper.
The copper that talks with a very deep voice. Are you telling me, Mr. Bannon, that you shot this man at 4 yards?
Yeah, they make a big point to say 4 yards.
Well, I don't believe you. You shot him at 4 yards, if that's what you're saying. I'd also like
I shot him at 4 yards.
There are certain shots where Peter Cushing looks like Michael Fassbender to me. I pointed that out to Mrs. Elder, and she's like, I don't see it. And then she's like, oh, now I do. It's just very particular angles that he looked kind of like Michael Fassbender. If someone was describing you what he looked like, and then they had to create him, Peter Cushing kind of like that.
In AI?
Yes,
yeah, right.
AI Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, now he's telling the cop, like, I think it was a mummy. And he's like, well, I don't. Like, basically.
I think you're weird.
Yeah, he's like, well, I think it was just a crazy person.
Those Egyptian things.
Yeah. Aren't they dead people?
I thought mummies were usually dead.
Yeah. Then he starts talking about his dad.
He's like, my dad said that mummies were dead. Oh, he's not saying.
No, I mean, Peter Cushing just telling him about his dad and everything. And we go back to the beginning of the movie.
Daddy?
Oh, yeah, it's another flashback.
Yeah. Of what happened when he took out the scroll.
Happened, yes.
And he started to read it. But, like, the scroll, what he's reading is it's like he's talking about tenderness and everything. It sounds like a love song from the 80s or something. Time, love, and tenderness. So weird. But,
I also wonder about, would this bring something back to life if you're reading it in English rather than in its original language?
I
mean, obviously,
no prize.
Carreras can understand English because the Fez talks to him in English, but I didn't know if that was just for the benefit of the viewing audience that we're hearing in English rather.
I don't see any UTs or babblefish, you know?
Yeah, right.
So listen to our Hitchhiker's Guide, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Listen to our Saturday.
So yeah, like when he did that, he conjured the mummy. Stephen saw it. It went crazy, and then
Fez runs in, grabs the scroll, and says, "Get back into the closet." To the mummy. Which I also would like to point out the fact that he got buried alive in that, and he was still standing after 4,000 years.
Yeah.
First thing I would have done was at least try to kind of sit if I could, just like like in a little ball because there's not much room. But I was like, I'm not standing until I die.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeesh. So yeah, now the cop's doing some digging though around town. Meanwhile, and he talks to the drunk guy and everything. But he does learn that there is an Egyptian guy in town or whatever. But that happens. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, the Fez, he's like, okay, there's one more unbeliever.
Probably should have just sent you to kill them both at the same time. But...
No, they were right there. He was right there.
Yeah.
It's the rule of threes.
Yes.
So Peter Cushing suspects that the mummy might be coming for him. And he looks at his wife, Yvonne, who played Ananka in the flashback scenes as well, we should point out. Says, "Oh, you look a lot like her, actually."
Very well.
But then he gives her like a dig. He says she was the most beautiful woman in the world. And she's like, "Oh, now you're talking." He's like, "Oh, there weren't that many people back then," or something like that. It's like the world wasn't so big back then.
Yeah.
That's not very nice.
Yeah, what would it be like?
That was part of my wedding vows.
You're Egypt 10, New York City 4.
Right. Oh my God. So, anyways,
he's a 10, but the world was smaller then.
Yeah, right. There weren't that many 10s. Most people were like 1s and 2s. Anyway, so he can go back. He sends her away. He's like, "Go lock yourself in the room." And
this is the first time that a character has sent his girlfriend to go lock herself in the room, and it doesn't have any sort of consequence or payoff to it.
Yeah.
Usually the monster will go into that room.
Right.
First.
Well, the mummy's doing his job. He's like, "You kill that guy." So, but
no relics in that room, I guess.
Right. So he's got his gun. He's gonna fight the mummy. The mummy comes through the window, but the bullets don't stop him. Nothing stops him. He stabs him with like a harpoon. Yeah.
Which Peter Cushing got the idea from the movie poster that they had before the movie came out, where he's got like a big hole in the mummy has a big hole in him and it's like glowing. He's like, "Oh, I could just stab him with a harpoon. That'll explain the big hole in him."
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Can a knowledge drop specifically about the poster, which was pretty interesting to me? That was the most expensive original poster to ever sell on auction.
Really?
That's
really cool. It's a pretty cool looking poster, actually. Yeah, he does have a big giant. We'll put it in the show notes, but yeah, he does have a giant thing of light coming through him. Do
you guys want to guess how much money that poster went for at auction?
Sure. I want to guess, but I don't really have a $3 million.
Not
up or down.
Little high.
I'll say 500,000.
You are close, but unfortunately, Price is Right rules. You went over $453,000.
Wow, that's still.
I said that in a British way. 500.
Was it what's his name from Metallica who bought it?
Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, isn't he the guy?
He's like
collects all the old. Yeah,
he's into that stuff. Yeah.
They had an exhibit a few years ago in the what's that museum there? Is in Salem, North Dakota.
Peabody.
Peabody Essex. Yeah. That was really cool.
I actually have a funny thing that happened when that exhibition came out. like I got an email. It was like an invite to go to see that, and I was just starting a new job, and I didn't realize that it was like an invite. So like I posted it on the website. I was like, everybody go to this thing.
Whoopsie doodle.
They called very mad.
Oh no.
Whatever. I don't know.
And then you lost your job.
Yeah, eventually. Not that
Eventually. Anyway, so Isabel comes out. She sees her husband getting choked.
Yeah.
And then he looks over, the mummy looks over at her, and he's like, oh, that's a nun cub.
That's my lady.
Yeah. Hey, I love that chick. And then he just leaves, though. After they stares at her for like a long
This
time.
is the part I was talking about where he does some like real good eye acting, where like you just see that he's like, oh.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry and ashamed.
Well, he has no tongue, so I guess he can't.
Yeah,
say
but
it.
he's like just wearing a mask, basically. So yeah, but I'm just like, oh, he's just conveying a lot of emotion just through his eyes, and he does it later on too, in a particular scene concerning her.
And when Fez is bossing him around, I mean, he's always kind of like, all right, boss.
Yeah,
Kind of rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
No one likes their boss, it's always. So anyway, yeah, the next day, the cop tells Peter Cushing, like, oh yeah, there's an Egyptian there in town. So John goes to pay a visit. Now here's where a lot of the stuff we were talking about earlier about, like, he starts to he's like, oh, I know your father from reputation. He starts talking about, aren't you basically a grave robber?
Yeah, he basically just starts like insulting him for what they do for work. Where like you file graves, you do this, and you will be punished.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter Cushing is basically like, yeah. He doesn't really like try to. Right. It's like, yes, well, I don't feel that way, or whatever. Like it's very like.
Yeah, he insults one of the deities. He's like, oh, it's just minor deity. No one even cares. He's like, what?
Yeah, he's like,
don't
thousands of people worship. He's like, those people were wrong, or whatever.
They were idiots.
Dummies worshiping a lesser
savages.
Yeah.
Weird dummies.
So he's they're weird dummies. Weird mummy dummies. Weird mummies. Yeah. So anyways, it's I like it. It's an interesting conversation. It's funny though. Like we are like it's like over an hour into the movie when that happens. I feel like
Fez was getting ready to leave. Him and the mummy were getting ready to leave because he didn't realize that.
Yeah, he thought he was dead.
Yeah. And then he gets a knock on the door.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Come and knock on the door.
Oh, R.I.P. Susan Summers.
Susan Summers.
Mummy's waiting for you.
So he finds the little seal, the little badge thing from the beginning, and that Peter Cushing. Loose seal. And then he kind of knows, like,
oh, is this the 19th dynasty or whatever? He's like 20th. Yeah. And he's like, oh, how stupid of me. He's like, yeah, this guy's the guy.
So stupid.
Remember that time you were harassing my dad at the Egyptian burial? That was awesome.
We had quite the tea in the tent.
Yeah, we all talked about you over some tea and cigars.
Yes, and Comic-Con.
And Clay's signed comic books. Clay's Inner-Drawn Universe comic books. Then he just came back from Midtown. Just relaxing in the tent now. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, like he goes back to the house. He's like, yeah, I think that guy's the guy. Meanwhile, Fez tells the mummy, okay, this is it. We got to take him out. And they both go, which I thought was kind of interesting. Why don't you send the mummy? He seems to be doing okay on his own.
But he wants to be there to make sure he doesn't follow up again. And
yes, so.
Then the cop gets mad at Peter Cushing for like running off and doing that because he's like, I was waiting until we were going to have more men and be ready. Now we've just got the drunk.
Right.
And the
one other guy. Yeah. But he's got some guys on the way, but they're not, it's going to be a while. So anyways, yeah, the old drunk is the lookout. And he's going to warn them if he sees anything.
I don't think I would trust that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. That was bad planning.
Yeah. He might see the little people.
Yeah, right. So he does see the mummy, and he's like, oh, and then Fez comes and kills him.
That's why he went.
Yeah.
He's like, look, you're not going to be the only one killing around here.
Well,
I got the
it's good.
bloodlust too.
It's like the two raptors in Jurassic Park. It's like,
It's exactly.
oh, you're looking at the mummy, and then I'm just going to come and stab you.
Yeah.
And then they also kill the happy cop, too, the other cop.
Yeah, that one made me real sad.
Yeah, he was all right.
He was happy.
So, like, meanwhile, the inspector, the main cop, is hiding with Isabel. And John is basically just, they're like, oh, you stay here. Huh? So the mummy knocks out because he's like, oh, I think I hear something. And he goes, and the mummy just clonks him on the head.
He's like, I did. It was me getting knocked out.
Yeah, I heard the bonk on the head I just got. So then he goes into the house, breaks down the door again. He's going to kill John.
With his good shoulder.
Yeah. So John has got a shotgun, but he's like shooting it into the ceiling because, the mummies, they're grappling and all that. And Isabel hears the shots and she runs into the house.
And she's like, stop. And he's like, I don't know who you are, lady.
Yeah, he just kind of looks.
And then he's like, oh, don't have your hair up. Pull it down. Yeah. And she does. And then he's like, oh, you're my girlfriend.
Yes, my beloved.
Yeah.
Beloved. Meanwhile, Fez is like, kill her. But he's like,
then here's more eye acting. Here is what I'm talking about, where he's like, no, because I was like the part earlier where he's like, go in the coffin there, mummy, and he's like, but it looks like he's doing the pee-pee dance, earlier, because he doesn't want to, because he's all conflicted.
Yeah. So Fez is kind of like, fine, I'll do it. He starts to go towards Isabel, and
it's a good kill right here, I think.
It's a little weird. Back. Yeah, I guess that's how he grabs the knife. And then, he kind of like it looks like a wrestling move or something. He like wraps his arm, bends him back. Yeah, they don't really show it.
Gorilla Monsoon and Mean Gene Okerlund are commentating on it.
Like, backbreaker, devastating.
Deliver the PVC clothesline.
1, 2, kick out. There's no kicking out. Fez is dead. And then the mummy takes Isabel, picks her up, hurts his back in real life.
As one does.
Yeah. And then she kind of faints into like his arms, so she's not really awake for this. And
he probably smells really bad, so.
Yeah, that probably knocked her right out. Yeah. So he's taking Isabel to the swamp. First they're like, oh, he's going back to the tomb or back to the house. And then like, no, look, there he goes into the swamp.
Which I don't understand why, but why not,
Yeah, I thought he had already come out of there. As we talked about earlier, I don't know, the swamp is really, I don't know even how to describe what it looks like. It doesn't really look like a swamp. There's water.
No, yeah, it just
looks like a small swamp pool. Like if you were to like something at a golf course to use you guys.
Yeah, it's a water hazard.
Yeah, right.
It reminds me of, remember the frog pond, I don't even know if you could call it a pond. It was just like a large puddle. And,
yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like a large mucky puddle.
Yeah.
Like in between you guys' North Dakota and like the other, I'm imagining something that was at Nisby's house, like between, there was like your thing and then like another development kind of like backs up to it.
Yeah.
I feel like there was maybe a muddy thing back
Yes,
there.
there was. That's exactly what I was referring to by the frog pond, but I guess.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's exactly
Well, I didn't know that's what you all called.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was imagining.
Yeah. Well done.
I was imagining it in my mind, and I was like, "Is that what he's talking about?"
One time, as children, we were doing like when it would freeze over, we would go and run on it and slide around, and we were doing pretend fist fights, and we would take just the really thin ice and smash it over each other's head. Right. And I think I probably found a piece that was too thick and hit it over Durson's head once. I just had a tendency to do that by accident.
With me.
Yeah.
Never anybody else. Only me. I remember the tomato That
Yeah.
got smashed. I remember baseballs hitting me in the face.
The baseball hit you in the ear. I got you over the head with ice. And one time we were doing a fake fist fight, and I punched you in the jaw too. And I was like, "Oh God, sorry." So I don't know why you're still talking to me. But thanks.
One day you will suffer.
Well, I don't know. I'll be punished by the gods.
Yep.
That's why I've been so sick this year.
That's right. Karma, man.
Finally come back to get me.
So, anyway, yeah. So, he's trying to. Peter Cushing is trying to yell to Isabel, and he's like,
He's like, Isabel, it's John.
Yeah.
Like,
"Who else?"
Yeah, I know.
"Oh, hey, John." And so he's like, "Tell her to put you down." And so she does. I don't know though. So she says, "Carreras, put me down." Or Carreras, I guess.
Yeah,
Carreras.
it depends on your accent, I guess.
I see. "Carreras, put me down." And so they're in this, like, they're like waist deep in the swamp, and like he puts her down, and then he's like, "Now back away slowly." Meanwhile, all the other cops have finally showed up. So there's a bunch of guys with guns, and he's telling them, "Okay, wait for my signal."
Your signal.
The signal. That's right. The beacon. And then he tells them, like, "Okay, fire!" And they all fire at the mummy, and he eventually sinks down.
Back down.
And but he's holding
Terminator
this. Yeah, it's kind of Terminator 2, but he's holding the scroll like above his, like in his hand as he sinks, like into the swamp. And
then credits literally roll.
right, that is the end. Not even like he's China's problem now.
No end of the new Transformers, like, we're gonna Peter Cushing comes down and like puts a card down. It's like hammer. The next card. Like puts a business card down on the cop's desk. Like, yeah, we're putting a team together.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's nothing that I kind of like, in a way, it's kind of fun. I don't know. I mean, whatever. The movie's over. Credits. Like, and the credits are short. The credits just have everybody's name, and that's it. It's not. I mean, I know to give credit there. I know because there's the strike and everything, but sitting through credits after like a 2.5 hour movie, and you gotta piss so bad you can taste it.
The post-credit scene in this though was interesting.
Oh, was there a post-credit scene?
No,
I didn't stick around for that. But yeah, that end. That's it. No more.
That's it. No more. Yeah.
So yeah. But like, it's a crisp, clean 88 minutes. Boom.
Yep.
Like,
And I know
Except for the
middle.
I really feel like that whole and
flash.
this is a weird thing. I love it, but I'm like, wow. I'm like, feel like a little kid. Like, do we have to still be in Egypt watching this boring flashback? But it actually is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think they would have done it sort of like the Brendan Fraser mummy way, where they had the rock. They would have done it that way, where it was like that story would have been right at the beginning of the movie instead of as told as a flashback in the middle of the movie. If it was a modern film.
maybe. Yeah. And then they would release
I actually quite
different
like those
spin-off.
Brendan
Just
Fraser movies.
Yeah.
I like those a lot.
I was not a fan. They weren't my favorite.
I don't think I ever saw
Sam and I went to see the Tom Cruise one.
I remember we talked
That's
about
not
it.
very good.
Go back and listen to our. We did a podcast about that. I think a while back. It was like pandemic time or whatever. And I was kind of, I'm not going to see it. And I feel like you guys got kind of mad at me just because I was not even willing to see it.
I didn't see the movie. So,
But I said that I didn't want to see it because of Tom Cruise. And I
thought that was all about. I
continues
thought
to
that
be.
was when we were talking about Mission Impossible movies.
Oh, that too.
Because the Mummy came out in like 2017.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Was it that
It was
long ago?
it was
Okay.
probably
Okay.
it was probably Vampire Council, like with me and Sam.
I think you're right. But I remember though, like that was around the time there was, for some reason, I was curious, even because like this was Universal. They wanted to do like a whole thing. They wanted to bring back all the monsters
Yeah.
And this
It
was like the
pitched
first
that.
one. Yeah, and that died a quick death because this movie didn't make a lot of money.
And
But like,
Sophia Butella, like, I mean, she's great, but I mean, she wasn't that awesome in the Mummy, like, but that was kind of like, it was kind of cool. It was like, oh, it's like a girl mummy, it was different.
right. But I remember thinking like immediately, like you have ruined your franchise by making it a Tom Cruise movie. You can't launch, a whole Universal Monsters franchise when you've already got like Tom Cruise as because now the movie is different. Like Robert Downey Jr. was Tony Stark, and that's why because he's not, you know what I mean? Like he played the part of Tony Stark. This is Tom Cruise just playing a guy.
Well, also, like, yeah, I totally agree with you, and like that was them looking like, going like, oh, we got Russell Crowe, we've got, like,
I think
we're gonna
Johnny
do
Depp was Johnny Depp.
Johnny
was supposed to
Depp.
be-
Yeah, there was
like,
there was a whole picture of like, these are gonna. It's like they were like
Yeah, and they
looking
did
at
make
Marvel
more
and being like,
movies.
we're gonna do this.
Yeah, they were gonna have like Angelina Jolie play the Bride of Frankenstein and things like that. Actually, the first movie that they did, which was they sort of retroactively did it, was that Dracula movie, that first.
Dracula,
Yeah, that was supposed to be
Undead or
that
whatever.
Luke Evans. That's
Right,
actually, I
right,
like
right.
that. But yeah, he was part of that too. He was the Dracula in that.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious about like the rest of them, but for some reason I was just like, "Oh, fucking Tom Cruise. I don't know.
I was
And,
more like a girl mummy. I want to see it. I want to see an
I-
old man in a saggy diaper mummy.
yeah, right. That's exactly what I said. But yeah, I don't know. I never did see it, and
And I
that's
never
kinda-
will.
No, I probably never will at this point because I just. But I thought that there's all these other cinematic universes. Why don't they do this? It'd be great. Modern, like
Yeah, I wonder why they decided to just not do it.
I don't know. I assume it had money. There was something with money, not mummy, money.
Money.
But I remember too, like around the time. This was like around the time where like Rotten Tomatoes was just there was a lot of review bombers around, and people were just giving it 5 stars because they felt bad because so many people were giving it negative stars, and literally people were like, "I haven't seen it, but I just want to give it 5 stars just because so many people are being mean."
Yeah, and then they started
Yeah.
buying a bunch of stock in GameStop.
They did. That movie actually looks. I'd be curious to see that movie, but Dumb Money. Have you seen?
So Johnny Depp was supposed to be the Invisible Man, and Javier Bardem was Frankenstein.
I mean, Javier Bardem is great.
Oh, I think Russell Crowe maybe was in that Mummy movie as like kind of a doctor or something. I don't know. Who knows? Never happens.
Was he like
Never
a
happened.
Van Helsing kind of guy or something like that?
Yeah. Because they go to like, since you'll never see it, they like kind of
Spoiler warning.
and absolute credit to you for like hating Tom Cruise especially in this movie, because he insisted on doing this like crazy airplane stunt that nearly got him killed, where he like, you know what I mean, like his
Yeah, that's like
typical-
in the trailer. They that got fucked up and they didn't have any of the music.
There was some sound or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
like something happened to it.
but they Tom Cruise, kind of like they capture the mummy and they bring her to Russell Crowe, who is kind of like I think he's actually Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but he like has all of they like go through his lab, and there's like a like a jar with formaldehyde, but like like a wolf's paw, or like a wolfman's paw,
yeah,
or like
yeah.
claws and like fangs, and it's like, ooh, like here's all the Easter eggs there's all the movies they're gonna make.
And here's one
Yeah.
that looks empty, but it's the Invisible Man's hand.
Well, see, that would have been a great role for Johnny Depp.
That's like when I went on that. Well, we've been on a couple of dates. I like to dress up as Nick Fury and go on a little side date with the
Invisible Woman. Yeah, that's right. I remember it from our Halloween party from all those years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that. I mean, I'm bummed that they I don't know. They trashed that or just whatever. Did they ever
No, that was
even?
it. Mummy
Right.
came out, and then they were like, "Oh, put the brakes on it. This
Like,
didn't do
never
it."
mind.
Yeah.
Just
They- so many people tried to do that. I mean, DC Comics too. Like they were like, "Oh, look what they did," and then they just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like you could have pulled off a Universal horror. Like,
I mean, they already did it
franchise.
back in
The Bride of
30s.
Yeah.
Frankenstein was set to be released in 2019, so and it had Alex
Wow.
Kirkman involved. And whatever.
There's your problem.
So
Yeah,
back to the Mummy. Back.
Yes.
All right, back to the.
All right, so we do final thoughts, I
1959 Mummy.
guess.
Final thoughts. Who wants? Do you want me to go first this time? Because you
Yeah,
guys
go
said,
first. Yeah, baby, yeah.
"Oh, Durson always goes last," because when he asks, he's
Because of your
disqualifying
inflection.
himself
But I don't mind.
because of my inflection.
You're like, because and to be fair, you deserve it. I'm just being very generous tonight. You've gone through this whole story. You don't even know if you watched this movie. You know, you just went through all the plot points. We were dropping knowledge along the way. You know, you have a lot of heavy lifting, so it's fair for you to ask one of us to go.
No, but I don't mind. I'll take the lead if you like on this one.
Take the league.
The
lead of
lead. The lead of Order 2. Yeah, so I don't know. I have to admit, like, not having ever seen this ever before now, I was kind of bored for the first, like, I don't know, half hour or so. I was kind of like, whoa, what are we going to even talk about this movie? You know, like, what are we going to say? Movies back then were slow. That's just the way it was. It's like you said, the flashback, which they would do in 15 seconds, takes like 20 minutes. Or whatever. Right. Yeah, like I didn't time it, but
yeah, it takes up a lot of screen time.
It's a lot of screen time, and everything is just slower, you know. And I guess it's our stupid, you know, attention spans. But
and now we're addicted to our phones.
Yeah,
I would like to point out that this movie, the score for this movie, I believe I used several musical cues for the Metamorpho origin audio comics. So
nice.
Go back and listen to those if they're still if they're still available.
They're way back in the archives, but they'll be there.
Pull them back out then.
Yeah, we'll throw in some links. But I mean, as the movie went along, I definitely and you start to see where it's going. You're like, okay, now I get it. And I was fine with like the whole second half of the movie, and I thought it was great. But yeah, the first, I don't know how long, but I was like, whoa. It's not even as slow. I mean, like, we've watched movies that I didn't like, but like, I was just like, what are we going to say?
It felt a little the same.
Well, yeah. Usually when Durst and I feel that way, Clay comes to the rescue. Has a lot to say about it. Durst and I felt that way about Bullet, and as Clay talked about it, I was like, yeah, I like this movie more. Now,
this movie's pretty good.
Yeah. I forgot we did Bullet.
Yeah, go back and listen to that episode.
Look, you, Clay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go more than like B plus, I guess, because I did enjoy it. You know, it was a fun movie. I don't. That's how I grade things. So
classic actor.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Peter Cushing, as John pointed out, Christopher Lee has to act, like with his eyes because he's covered up and he can't speak. So, yeah, and the cop, awesome acting there.
Can't get enough of him.
And the drunks. I like the drunks.
I do love the drunks. So, but a good movie.
If you like the drunks, that's like a staple of Hammer films. From this
Maybe I will watch some more of these. To be honest, I did enjoy it, but it just took me a little while to get into it. So there you go. That's it. That's all I got.
Cool.
All right, I can go.
Well, it's up to you.
If I may fire when ready.
You may fire when ready. That's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Where'd you land? B plus?
Yeah.
Somewhere between a B and a B plus. I'm gonna
B.5.
Yeah, B.5. I feel like giving it a flat B is like says something negative, but that I don't mean to do. So let's just say B plus. Yeah, just echo what you said about it was a little slow, but like I kind of was like trying to force myself to be like, no, look at these weird fucking costumes. Like, look at this weird thing they're trying to do. And I did kept trying to like sort of compare it to the other Mummy, what I remembered from the other Mummy movie. And it took me a while to realize that it's 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 not exactly the same. It's kind of the same story, and I think they even carried that into like the Brendan Fraser movies too, in a way. That's kind of that's the story of the Mummy. Like Frankenstein makes the monster, and that's the story of Frankenstein. Like this is the story of the Mummy, years later after that other one, and it's a Hammer film is a fun thing to watch. It's colorful. It's different. Like I like a Hammer Dracula movie. Like they're different than the Universal horror ones, which is kind of makes me like it a little bit more. Not saying one's better than the other. It's just like, oh, this is not what I'm expecting. Like even like the look of the Mummy and his costume and his diaper and all of it.
Diaper,
like
yeah.
But like it's cool to see that, and that they're using whatever they would call it, like Technicolor or whatever, just have those really bright colors pop. And after a lot of black and white movies, especially for horror, so Hammer brings color to horror, and definitely is a little bit. They tend to, I think, broadly general. If like Universal is like PG to G, at least horror, like Hammer, like kind of brings it to like PG-13R, a little bit with gore and blood.
Oh yeah. Also, Durston, you'll like the other Hammer films. A lot of topless scenes.
Oh well, of course.
Oh yeah.
And a bunch of like second string Bond actors in there, like the guy who's like the Minister of Defense is in some of them too. So
Oh, well, how about that? So
Lots
you
of
had us watch the one without
bustiers.
the nudity. Thanks.
oh yeah.
Listen to our 2024 horror movie.
Yeah, right. Go forward in time.
But yeah, B plus. Enjoyed it. Liked the actors. Think that it had its weird quirkiness that I enjoyed. I guess I'll leave it there.
Very well. Well, I guess I'm going to echo everything you guys pretty much said too. I'm somewhere between a B plus and an A minus, so I guess I'm a B plus 0.5. Like I said, this had a major impact on me as a child because it like terrified me for at least a year. I enjoy the performances. Like the drunk guys are all like hammy, stereotypical Hammer drunk, like dudes. Peter Cushing is great. What's great about Peter Cushing is if you watch other movies like where he's like plays Dr. Frankenstein, he's an asshole and he's evil and stuff. But in this, he's charming and sweet and nice. I like his versatility. I like Peter Cushing's imposing figure. Because I forget how tall he is, like 6'5" or something like that.
Christopher Lee's.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
How tall is Peter Cushing?
I think he was like we looked it up while we were
Okay.
watching it, and Peter Cushing is also a tall man, but looks
Okay.
short next to him.
Right.
And maybe since Mrs. Elder usually watches most of the movies that we do for the podcast with me, it might make it a little more enjoyable for me because I can throw out facts and we kind of goof on the movie a little bit as we're watching it. But yeah, it's a little slow at the beginning, but I already knew it was, so that part doesn't bother me. I enjoyed, as we said, the sets. And I don't know what else to say. I like it. B plus A minus somewhere in
That's
there.
great.
So.
I mean, I'm glad you suggested it. Like I said,
Well,
I
I was
know.
trying to find a Mummy movie that was more in line with what you were thinking of when we did the Karloff Mummy, where you're like, this isn't anything. There's no Mummy wandering around killing anybody. He's on the Mummy for like 2 seconds. At the
Right,
beginning.
right.
I know. It was
I was like,
weird.
well, this is probably more in line with what you had in mind.
Yeah, definitely was. And like the classic monster, like he's actually, kind of sympathetic. But they shoot him at the end because he's threatening people and killed people and stuff.
And
But,
also,
you're like,
Yeah, very Frankenstein in that way, like
right.
it's not like he's misunderstood really, and it's just
No, but
it's
he was getting pushed around by Fez and everything.
I also
he's-
feel like this Mummy, what the joke is always like, oh, you could easily get away from the Mummy. He just kind of hobbles along. I feel like this Mummy could at least break out into a light jog if you were trying to get.
So kind of
Well, when he like breaks through the door and stuff, like
Yeah, no,
he's
he's
kind of
got the
fast.
power.
Like he's on
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like got his full, at least his full like regular man strength when he died 4,000 years ago. He's not like it's almost like the 28 days later like zombie thing. Like this guy is like this mummy wakes up and he's ready to go. You know what I mean? He's
Right.
not like a slow Walking Dead zombie. You know, to compare it to like zombies.
Right. He's
No,
like a
like,
World War Z kind of zombie or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. He's got his shit together. And, as a punk rocker, I think I mentioned this to you guys like on text or something, but when in the late 90s, when we maybe fell out of touch for a little while, the three of us, but like when I was in that band, the Humanoids, I would always wear this poster on my shirt. I had the shirt before I even saw the movie, so it was kind of a punk.
Nice.
Yeah, so it took
But
you,
I would wear that
30
shirt
years
all
before
the time. All the time I would wear it. Love that shit.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely gonna look up some of these.
And I think that I maybe
Hammer.
thought that when we watched the Carlisle movie that I was getting what we got here. Like, I think that you're totally right. That was like also for my benefit because I was like, this is actually he'll kick your ass, this mummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So-
I guess I would recommend out of other I don't actually like a lot of the other Hammer films, but probably because Mrs. Elder and I went through a bunch of them, I think during lockdown, because I have like a box set of them. I think the Dracula with Christopher Lee, the first one is pretty okay. And the Frankenstein is pretty okay too. The whatever it is, Horror Frankenstein or something. Those would be
there's
the
a
two.
lot of Frankensteins. They do.
Yeah, those would be the two I would recommend.
Okay.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot on Max. I mean, I'm just like,
Yes.
Very
after
good.
the thing, it's
That-
like
that
in my
worked out
little
nice.
browser here.
Yeah, the horror Frankenstein? Frankenstein and the monster
Dracula
from
has
hell.
risen from the grave.
Frankenstein must be destroyed.
Frankenstein created woman.
They start getting real goofy. There's like Dracula 1972 AD or something like that, and Christopher Lee's in it for like 10 minutes, and he's like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
really
that's-
want to do this, and it's all like about hippies and stuff. I can't really remember it that well. I saw it once, and I was like, woof, this is not good.
How about The Nanny? What do you have you ever seen that? Is that the one with Hulk Hogan in it?
I thought it was the TV show with Fran Drescher.
Oh, maybe it was that one. Yeah. Nice.
Then there's another one where it's like it's sort of like that Dr. Jekyll and Ms. Hyde movie that was like
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
Young. There's like one of those where it's like
Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
yeah,
It's-
it's pretty goofy.
There's like, what is the one where Frank Langella plays Dracula?
I think that one's called Dracula.
Yeah, it might just be Dracula. I think
Interesting.
it's 1979.
Interesting. The Brides of Dracula, plural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anytime you
Oh,
see
that
a
Dracula.
a bride's this or that, that's when you get that. Yeah, nice tight shirt, popping cleavage, cottage in England. And there's actually like great, like this movie reminded me of like some really cool horror comic books, like black and white ones where they're, like comics are a great place to do this kind of, late 19th century village in England kind of setups and horse-drawn carriages, relics, and like, oh, it's
Also-
a wolfman, whatever,
Hammer would film if they actually did film on location. They would often film in this park that was close by to the studios, which was also used for the car chase in Goldfinger. Go listen to our Goldfinger episode.
Whoa! Yeah, you should listen to our Goldfinger episode. It's actually one of my favorites. Not just
Yeah.
saying that. Like,
About that.
do you feel like if we were
10
happened to
million
be-
now or 100 million later?
Oh, hey, look at that! Michael Goff is in the Horror of Dracula. Go back and listen to our Batman episodes as well, because here's get you a sandwich, Mr.
I'll cancel
Dracula.
the pizza, Mr. Dracula. Mr. Dracula.
Oh, cancel the next. You to eat.
I'll cancel the jugular.
He's
Oh,
in
that would've-
so many of these.
Jugular. Damn it.
Son of a.
like if we happen to be living in England in the 1950s and like, had a little bit of money, we probably would have made movies like this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You remember that there used to be a joke shop, and we went there one time and bought a bunch of stuff, and the guy was like, "You guys making a movie?" And we're like, "Yep."
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember holding on, like buying fake blood around Halloween one time, and then saving it till like Easter.
Yeah. And by
You're buying it like November
solidified.
1st. Everybody else is buying candy. You're buying.
Yeah, buying the fake blood. I feel like now this stuff is,
everything's easy to get now.
Yeah.
Let's do a Dracula movie then.
All right then. Yeah. So, but good for them. They did it. They didn't even have a CVS to buy all these things, or a joke shop. A joke shop. Good stuff. I'm gonna check some of these out. And meanwhile, check us all out. LeaguePodcast.com.
A+ segue.
Thank you. I get a B plus 0.5 on the segue. But,
yes, absolutely. It wasn't an A, but it wasn't I felt like a solid B was just not high enough.
Wouldn't cut it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so check us out, leaguepodcast.com or hashtag wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out YouTube as well. And yeah, leave us a review and thanks for another world or whatever. I don't know.
It's so funny because I got away with, I don't know how I got away with the ones that I posted already, but I decided to take a big chunk of Batman and Robin and like put it behind all these like filters and stuff and just like kind of have there be like, the podcast was pretty long. So I had like 10 minutes of the movie and I like looped it, but I did all this crazy filters and stuff over it. And I uploaded it like, no joke, 5 times. And I kept getting copyright striked.
Damn.
Because they can tell. Even if you like mirror stuff and do all this stuff. And I was like, oh dang, I gotta figure out a way to do this to get that up on YouTube. But the other ones are up there for the Batman 89. LeaguePodcast.com/Batman89. And I got a joke for you guys. Did you hear about the wooden horse? Wooden shit.
That's right.
My dad tells that joke all the time.
Wow.
Listen to our next episode, which will be dad jokes.
Gotta go. I was still going to say something about seeing a man about a wooden horse, but yeah.
But I ruined it for you. You'll just not
yeah, you ruined
joke for a long time.
No, it's right. You did. You ruined horse jokes forever. But...
It's not a dog.
It's a horse.
I brought it back.
A horse.
I tried myself. I hope.
Bring it back. The movie. All right. I think I got all I need here.
I got it. I'm done too. I don't know. It's a nice way to say it, but I'm done with you. And yes, I've gotten enough out of this interaction.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Definitely check us out. Maybe we'll get another Halloween one, I hope. But if not, we've done all these other cool Halloween episodes. Go back through the archives. And we've got all kinds of Universal horrors. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Adios.
Adios.
There you fuck.
Mommy, the only mommy.
Mummy money.